Okay.
Okay. Good evening. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for coming to our online talk for how to go plastic free without spending more. And we are very excited to be joining up with OurPledge tonight, who you're going to hear about after our little presentation. So from OurPledge, we have Rachel and Alice, and Plastic-Free Hackney is me, Daisy, and Bettina. So Bettina, do you want to, shall we do the Mentimeter?
Yes, so we're going to start just with a quick question. So this is quite a fun little poll, and it'll then come up and show everything. So we've got a quick question. So you'll get a link, and then if you click on the link, then you'll get like a fun graphic, then which will be the answer to what everybody on the question has asked. I didn't explain that very well, did I?
It's technically seamless.
But the Mentimeter is coming now. And the question is, what is the trickiest thing that you find like plastic free? So you can sort of answer it in this Mentimeter thing, and then it will come up with a lovely graphic that we can all see at the end. It's just a bit of fun, if the room change wasn't fun enough. So is the Mentimeter?
Yes, well, in true form, it's not. There we go. I've got it. Sorry about that. Share screen. Here we go. Is that working?
Yes.
Ta-da! Yeah, so what you need to do if you want to join in is go to menti.com, and then you see at the top it's got that code. So you enter that code, so 25864339, and then you type in your answer, and then as people fill in the answer, this screen will populate, and then maybe we can see if we can help you out on those things, if we can find a way. So milk, there we go.
Sorry, would it be possible to share a direct link within the chat?
Yes,
sure.
Thank you very much.
Cosmetics, yep. So milk, obviously there's a milkman now, so, you know, like back in the 80s, you can get milkman now. It is more expensive, and it's probably not in every area, but yeah, milk is now.
Oh, yay, coming in.
An actual good deodorant. Well, we've got a workshop that can facial moisturizer. Oh, same workshop. There's actually, I really like a brand called Sheer Alchemy, SHEA Alchemy, and they have a stall on Broadway Market, but they also sell online, and she makes lots of cosmetics, like facial moisturizers. She makes like an SPF one and stuff, and they come in like metal tins, and I think they're really great products. So
they are. I'm gonna pop them in the chat. So there's a link for Sheer Alchemy in the
toothpaste. So toothpaste is I actually just saw something on Instagram today, which was toothpaste in a metal tube. But what I've started using, and I actually bought them for my kids. I don't know how successful with the kids it's going. But I use these things called Dentatabs, which are like they look like a little aspirin, and you chew them with the water from your mouth. It sort of foams up, and then you brush your teeth, and that's it. And it comes in a cardboard box, which it sort of takes the kid a bit. Well, I mean, after a couple of times you get used to it. It's not as foamy as traditional ones, but it's foamy enough, and I quite like using it.
And it's also very exciting because it includes fluoride, and some of the plastic-free options don't include fluoride.
Yeah, and my teeth, they need the fluoride. Spontaneous takeout food. I mean, yeah, the spontaneity is where zero waste do not meet. That is the problem. I think spontaneity can also be sort of seen as convenience, and yeah, it's a tricky one. But I mean, for sort of takeout stuff, Tupperware, you know, you can take a Tupperware to most places and they're happy.
And some places do like a tiffin box that you can take and return.
Yeah, Dabba Drop, which is local to here.
Yeah.
Spontaneous coffee. I mean, I would argue with a spontaneous coffee that it doesn't really, you know, drinking a cup of coffee doesn't really take that long. So you could ask just to have it there, you know, and just sort of,
yeah. Or bring a keep cup.
5 minutes and just go, you know what, actually, I'm not in a rush. I'm going to have my coffee and enjoy the, you know, however much it costs, £3, £4, £5, whatever. And I enjoy it. And I'm going to sit down and I'm going to just spend 5 minutes, because really, it's not like a long drink. Vegan grocery items. Yeah, I mean, other than vegetables, yeah, the vegan stuff is very packaged. Yeah. Ooh, I like this.
Cabbage is doing some nice
style. You written
candles?
It? What does it say? Candles.
Candles?
Amazing. I'll just say a couple of other things. I know that you can get milk in one of the shops that we've worked with. You can get refill milk. So there are dispensers now. I think it's On Guard Dairy that will do a fill up of the refill dispensers. So you can take a bottle and return that. And I'm going to just say that we'll come back to kids' party products later. That's something that we'll mention. We won't have the answer yet, but we will mention that.
Yeah.
Sure.
SPF that isn't disgusting. So Sheer Alchemy, she does a really good one, actually. I mean, it's sort of difficult when you're thinking like entire families, like entire bodies, but if you're just thinking like face, that's quite good. There is one that I thought was disgusting as well, and I didn't use, and just went all weird. I think the ones where they're like really zinky, they're quite
yeah. So we've got a good suggestion for pet food, to use food in cans. So for cat food, there's a brand, Judith is saying there's a brand which is called Yarra, which is even organic. Excellent. Shall we move on to our presentation? And this is very useful, and we shall come back to some of these. And if you have come up with something that you're looking for plastic free that we haven't covered, then pester us in the chat, in the questions, and stick your hand up at the end, and we shall come back to it. We're not ducking away from hard questions.
No, and also after this, we will send out, so I'll send out a document with like as much as I know about everything on that list for alternatives. So yeah.
Okay, Bettina, do you want to
share my screen? Okay. So but we'll start and we'll come back to everything. Okay. Sharing. Can everyone see that so far? Can everyone see that?
Yeah, everyone can see it. Great. This is so Plastic-Free Hackney is we are a campaign group who have been running since 2018. If you want to flick onto the next slide, Bettina. That's Bettina, that's me. And the group was founded by Bettina, and I jumped on board shortly afterwards when she did a Instagram posting with a kind of modest challenge of how about we make Hackney go plastic free, and I said, yeah, that sounds great, let's do it in a fortnight. So we are what's known as a what is a CIC,
community interest company.
A community interest company, which basically means that everything that we're doing is being reinvested back into the community. So it's sort of like an easy setup of being a charity. And our premise is to engage with the local communities in Hackney, talking to people about living sustainably, kind of through the medium of reducing single-use plastics, and trying to be very practical about it. So if you want to go to the next slide, Bettina. So we have a kind of personal aversion to the whole kind of land of everything being matchy and perfect. And look, I just went and bought lots of mason jars and everything's really pretty. And all of that kind of, I don't know, there's very much a sort of a lifestyle image of sustainable living that is, I think, well, really counterproductive to actually to the cause, and making it accessible to everybody. One of the things that we do is we run a monthly litter pick, which we've been doing for the past 3 years, and we meet on the last Sunday of every month at 10 a.m. outside the Princess of Wales pub. And we have had up to 80 volunteers coming along, where we just haul out absolutely huge quantities of single-use plastics and everything else. And unfortunately, it all ends up going to the incinerator. That is what happens to your black bin waste. Your residual waste in Hackney, it is incinerated, and all of the stuff that we collect is deemed to be contaminated, because, as I'm sure you all know, your plastic and your recycling materials have to be clean when they're collected, because essentially the companies are collecting a commodity that can be sold on. And if you're looking at an image like that, you know, you're not really going to sell that Coke bottle floating in the center of the canal to anybody else. So if you skip to the next slide, that was after 2 hours. So having looked pretty hideous, that's how the canal should look. And we've recently renamed the events as pollution picks rather than litter picks, which is sort of sounds like something that why does the change of language matter? Because it's important to notice, to recognize and label the fact that that is plastic at a different point in its pollution cycle. And littering is something that is quite a politicized term that the manufacturers use to put the onus of responsibility on the people who've dropped the item. And we very much want to focus that responsibility back to the people who are making it. So there are lots of happy pollution pickers before setting off. You see their empty bags. Okay, and next slide, Bettina. This is Bettina in the round chapel, old schoolrooms, when we were running one of our workshops in person, which we used to do, and we hope very much to start doing again in September. So here we are running a cleaning products workshop. And it's basically about sort of demystifying the things that we buy and that we have in our homes, and just saying so much of the things that we have sort of been sold to believe that are essential parts of our everyday life actually aren't. And there is a great benefit to going back to really simple old-fashioned ways of doing things that aren't necessarily, they're not time consuming, they are much cheaper, and they are much more they generate much less waste, much healthier for you in terms of internal air pollutants, and stop buying the stuff basically, and then much cheaper. So it's a win on all the accounts. So next slide, please, Bettina. Here, as you can see, is a very happy person who has just made her own body scrub. So it's a really nice way of just thinking a bit more creatively around, I mean, there's a practicality in the fact that you end up with products that you can then use at home, but it also sort of, we kind of like to use it as a catalyst to help people start thinking around what it is that they're depending on at home. Actually, we can really be much more resourceful and creative and thoughtful about what it is that we do. And there's a real joy in making your own stuff. And, you know, Harbu sucks to the people who are generating the plastic. And which leads on perfectly to this film, which is going to instantly work, which is a very nice short Friends of the Earth film about plastic pollution and why it matters. So Bettina, you're on mute at the moment, so I don't think anyone can hear your sound. You're still on mute?
There we go. Sorry, you can't find anything when you're in the thing.
No, you can't find anything. Well done. Well found.
Thanks.
In a little over a century, plastics have transformed the way we live. From wind turbines to aircraft wings, they've helped build the modern world. Today, the latest versatile durable plastics help us to do more with less. reducing energy use, emissions, and waste. And the fresh innovation and infrastructure they bring enables the creation of new jobs. But there's a problem. 40% of plastic in Europe is single-use packaging. And since the start of mass production in the 1950s, we humans have produced 8.3 billion tons of plastic in all, weighing the same as around 80 million blue whales. And the majority has ended up in landfill, incinerated, or polluting the planet. But the problem starts way before the plastic reaches our bins and rivers. Over 99% of plastics come from chemicals sourced from oil and gas production. The more plastics we make, the more oil and gas we use. So it's no surprise that many of the oil and gas companies behind the climate crisis are investing heavily in plastics production. Meanwhile, the expansion of oil and gas production has led to a dramatic fall in the cost of raw materials for plastics, and output is on the rise. Cheap fracked gas is also driving huge new investments in America and worldwide, with $164 billion funding 264 new facilities or expansion projects in the US alone. And with a wave of investment in China, Europe, and the Middle East, the global infrastructure for a new generation of production is well underway. So, is the coming increase in plastic production sustainable? And are the benefits worth the cost? There are few bigger long-term threats to our planet than greenhouse gases. These gases are already increasing global temperatures, melting ice caps, raising sea levels, and threatening coastal cities. Right now, the production of plastic is responsible for 5% of global emissions. And in the years ahead, the harmful gases from plastic production are set to grow almost 300%, meaning it will soon be a bigger contributor to climate change than aviation and shipping put together. In the last decade, humans produced more disposable plastic than in the entire 20th century, and we can all see the results. Yet the leading oil and gas companies plan to increase plastic production by an extra 40%. And this is a problem for all of us. Even if we could recycle every last piece of plastic we use, the damage caused by making it can't be undone. So as well as tackling the growing crisis of plastic waste, we also need to confront what happens at the start of the plastic's life cycle. The time to act is now. Because when the world's new plastics factories become a reality, they'll threaten the future of the planet with accelerated climate change. Friends of the Earth is working to change all of this for good. Join us and be part of the solution.
So, there we go. So I think that's basically the reason why we're kind of here. You know, there are just so many issues with plastic pollution, and whilst it's a massive systemic change that needs to take place, I think that, you know, if we all want to reduce it in our personal lives, and that sort of sends messages out, you know, to sort of companies that are selling this, that we don't want it. But, you know, we live in the age of plastic. You know, the Anthropocene is now what it's being called. And so this workshop is basically how you can do it personally. So that's what we're going to do now, sort of go through our sort of top 10 tips for how you can reduce plastic in your own life. So we're straight on to tip number 1, which is take it slow. So like I said, you know, we live in a plastic age. You know, I don't think any of us probably can remember a time when plastic wasn't just so ubiquitous, so everywhere. And so my first tip would really be to take it slow in your journey to sort of move away from plastic. You know, if you try and do it you know, sort of go cold turkey, right, and go plastic free in a week, you're just setting yourself up to fail, really. It's just too entrenched in our lives. So, you know, by taking it slow, if you kind of think to yourself, you know, I'm just going to make one sustainable change a month. You know, if you think of that one item on that initial list, or, you know, one thing that you really use a lot of, you think, right, I'm just going to make this one change a month, but I'm going to continue that change. And once I'm happy with that change, then I'm going to move on to the next one. You know, you just got to think of it as a journey, and we're just going forwards. So just kind of small sustainable steps. And, you know, you will slip up, you know, that you will think, oh, I was doing so well. And, you know, mistakes happen, you know, perfection is the enemy of good. We're just trying to sort of just be a bit more mindful and go forwards, and just go forwards in that sort of journey to plastic free. And I think it's also a sort of a mindset as well. You can look at it two ways. It's also a mindset to sort of our consumption, you know, that everything is so quick at the moment. You know, the emails come in and it's like, buy me and this sale is on, and we're just bombarded by images all the time, which is just this fast level, high levels of consumption. So again, like, just take it slow, just kind of slow down and, you know, really think, do I need this? Do I want this? And I think it sort of, it starts to become easier the sort of further along you get. So that's my first tip. By the way, I can't see anything other than this slideshow. So if there's anything, I can't see if anyone's put their hand up or anything. So Daisy.
No, nobody's put their hand up.
Or if anyone's looking like, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah, no, they're all obeying at the moment. But probably the best way of communicating with us is popping things in the chat. And if you put things in the chat as we go along, and if Bettina says something that you're like, Rui, I want to go back on that and get some more information, put it in the chat and we shall come back to it.
Yes. Okay, so next up is the basics. So this is also the basics of the kind of we've all heard there were the 3 R's, and now there's the 5 R's. So we're taking the R's further down the road. And the first one that we're going to talk about in basics is refuse. So we've also got reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. But refuse is just a really simple, easy thing that we can do. You know, it's all that daily pointless plastic that just comes into our lives. It's, you know, water bottles, coffee cups, bags, straws. I think have been banned now, actually. I mean, and they're sort of quite small, but anyway, all those freebies, all that kind of stuff that we can actually just say no to. You know, and something like a tote bag, which we all must have. I mean, I've got, if you don't have a tote bag, I will give you a tote bag because I have so many of them. I don't know where they come from. I think they're like gremlins, and you add water to one and you suddenly have a lot. So, you know, and they just pack up so small and they fit in anything. So it's just kind of, it's just making sort of these new habits that you're going to remember. You know, it's taking your, you know, you always remember to take your mobile and your keys and your phone. And so now it's just a new one where you've got your tote bag for those kind of off the cuff purchases, or a water bottle. So, you know, you don't have to get those things at least when you're out and about. And perhaps, you know, you can set yourself a new rule. Just, you know, we're now in Plastic Free July, which is part of the reason why we're doing this talk now. So maybe just start out in Plastic Free July saying, no cup, no coffee. You know, if I don't have my reusable cup, and I know it's trickier now, this is the issue with COVID, where people have kind of, you know, they have kind of used it as an excuse now that they can't take your reusable because of COVID. And there are sort of safe ways to use your reusable. City to Sea have a whole thing on it. So it is possible. And actually it's sort of slightly untrue that you can spread COVID on things like this as well. But yeah, maybe set yourself like a little challenge, no cup, no coffee, whatever it is, you know, just say to yourself, I'm not going to do this. And then all these things just become habits. And so what we're just trying to do is change habits, go from sort of our old bad habits to sort of better habits. The next tip would be know your enemy. If you know what you throw away, you can avoid throwing away that thing, as it were. Making waste more visible makes you more conscious of what you throw away. So what I think was quite helpful for me is just to kind of limit the amount of bins, you know, whether that's like in your workplace or at home. You just kind of have 3 bins in one location, say in the kitchen, and you have to throw away all your waste from there. It makes it really obvious what it is that you're throwing lots away of. The only exception to this would be in the bathroom, because as we know, only the 3 Ps should be going down the toilet. Yes, lots of blockages, lots of fat bags, lots of disgusting things. So yeah, but you want to also make sure that, you know, you are separating that waste. You know, maybe you have one sort of dry bin in the bathroom, and that you can then transfer that to the sort of main bin, so you can see what it is that you're throwing away. You know, is it just tons and tons of shower gel or shampoo bottles, or all of that stuff also, you know, that can be recycled as well, that often gets forgotten because it's in the bathroom bin. So yeah, so then what we're going to start with.
Can I jump in? There was another point that it's a good Hackney Council point, which is you must always use your green bag for your recycling. So if you ever put recycling in a black bag, it's always going to be thrown away. So they're not going to check the inside. That is one of the reasons why the recycling bags are thin and transparent, so that they can see the contents of the inside. So always think about that with your recycling. And I've got a good food waste stat, Bettina, when you get to food waste.
So, you know, when we were thinking about that sort of, you know, the 5 R's, so what we're going to start with now, where we've got our bins, you know, we've got our 3 bins, we've got our general waste bin, residual waste, which will go to the incinerator. We've got our compost bin, which I'll come to as well, our food waste, and then we've got our recycling bin. So we'll start with recycling. Oh no, back, don't look at that, don't look. So recycling is, it's sort of a good place to start, although eventually, you know, we're hoping to reduce this too. The council website, so I don't know, you know, some of you may not be in Hackney, but the same applies wherever you are. You know, the council's website is a sort of cornucopia of facts of what you can and can't recycle. Also here, if you're in London, one of the 7 boroughs that's your waste is managed by the North London Waste Authority, their website is pretty comprehensive about what they will and will not accept for recycling. So I would have a look at that, because I think the problem is, you know, we've got a really piecemeal recycling system in the UK. You know, what's acceptable on one side of the road isn't on the other, you know, if you're in a different borough. And I think, you know, obviously people move around a lot, you know, sort of renting and so on. And so I think it can become really confusing. So I think if you are sort of new to where you are, or even if you've been there for years, I think it's worth refreshing your memory on what you can and can't recycle. And, you know, it's amazing, like lots of people that sort of go, oh, you know, they're pretty sure, are shocked kind of when they go, actually, I've been chucking this polystyrene in the recycling, when you definitely cannot recycle polystyrene, as an example. So yeah, so you want to sort of avoid contamination in your recycling, know that you're recycling it correctly, and that you're just rinsing it out so it's not, you know, soiled with food waste and so on. So, and if you're not, so then we've got our recycling bin. So we're thinking, right, things are going in there. First of all, we want to try and get things out the residual bin into the recycling bin, and then we've got our food waste bin. So Hackney Council and a lot of London boroughs and boroughs in the UK do have food composting that they will come and collect with your rubbish each week. And it's really important that you are composting. So as you've seen this slide for a while now, composting for 1 year can save global warming gases equivalent to your kettle's yearly CO2 emissions. Not that it's so much of an issue in Hackney because our waste is incinerated, although it's still not great. I think people think because food, etc., is, you know, biodegradable, that you just think, well, I'll just put it in the bin. You know, if it goes to landfill, it's fine. But the problem is when food rots in landfill, it's an anaerobic environment, so it doesn't have that oxygen to break it down. So what happens is it breaks down anaerobically, and that releases methane, which is a really potent greenhouse gas, much more potent than CO2, in fact. So, and also, you know, it's kind of, you know, it's also a resource. I think what I hope that you take away from this is that also that, you know, we need to start thinking about things as resources, and food waste is just another resource. You know, it can be turned into compost and so on. It's just a valuable fertilizer. There are different ways that you can recycle your food, I guess. So there's home composting. So you can get a compost bin from the council. I think they offer subsidised fees for compost bins. There's the council composting scheme, which I must say I find the easiest. I don't have a garden big enough for a compost pile and so on. So the home compost scheme, or there's community compost schemes. Often if you've got a community garden in your area, they'll happily take your food scraps and so on to add it to their compost bin. And then for the brave-hearted, such as Daisy, there are wormeries. So these are, you know, which you can have in your house and they don't smell, or you have them outside and yeah, you have little worms in them. Daisy's better at telling you about wormeries. But yeah, I think if you want to start and you have got a council recycling scheme, that's probably your best place to start.
Wormeries are great if anyone's interested, because they make this amazing kind of, it's really cool. They're not icky. and I've got a little garden, and our wormery's about that big. But you can also get them that when you keep them inside. But the thing that's really good is it makes this incredibly rich organic matter. Hey, so Rachel's saying, thank you, Rachel is saying it's not icky at all. It is an amazing fertilizer, and it's just actually exceptionally cool. Like, there's something about keeping some of, I mean, I can't do it with all of our waste, but we do it with some of it, that just sort of being part of that whole process of seeing, well, what is happening to my food waste, and look, how long does it take a worm to break this down? And oh, they're lovely. So yeah, worms are good. And so I've also put a link in the chat to the resources for Hackney composting.
Cool. So yeah, and then, I mean, and if your council doesn't have a compost scheme, actually, the Mayor's London Environment Strategy will stipulate that all London boroughs should be offering this soon. Yeah, I know that Barnet doesn't. And so on top of these these 3 bins where the majority of waste goes, you know, you can sort of take it further. So I have a bag of kind of old textiles, you know, like socks that are beyond repair or whatever, which then I sort of take to the textile bins to be recycled to turn into rags. I've got a bag of electrical waste, so that's anything with a plug or a wire, shouldn't be going into your bin. That should be being recycled in those banks that are around Hackney, the e-waste bins. Batteries, I've got sort of a bag for batteries. You know, I've got a bag of things that are, you know, for charity shops that are, you know, obviously maybe my kids have grown out of them. So it's just thinking about waste in a different way and just sort of separating it. So finally, so you've now done all of these things. And so after about a week or so, you can sort of do a bit of a bin audit. There's a, I don't know if you've heard of a guy called Daniel Webb. He does an amazing project called Everyday Plastic. So he has sort of, I think it's on his website, it's all laid out if you want to do the sort of everyday plastic survey. And he's got great sort of charts and things like that where you can really map it out. But you really just want to see what it is that you're throwing most of, you know, what it is that you're throwing a lot away of. And so maybe make a list, start with like the top 5 or the top 3, and start to look for alternatives for those things. And you kind of also, you want to sort of move that waste upstream. So, you know, if you think, right, something's going in the residual bin, but can I swap it for a recyclable package? Can I do that first? You know, just kind of try and move that waste upstream until you're not creating that waste. So also, I mean, what's also useful about the food waste by separating that as well is, I think, you know, there's a big problem with food waste. You know, so, you know, buying salad bags and not eating them, and food portions being too big, and having that food waste in one bit, you know, instead of just chucking the salad bag in the bin, it really focuses the mind if you're having to empty that bag into that food bin. And so then maybe you think, right, this is ridiculous. Why am I doing this week in, week out? I'm going to stop buying them or whatever. So yeah. Then next, so the next tip is that we want to use it up. So before we start, you know, deciding, right, we're going to buy all the new plastic-free items, we're going to get rid of all this plastic in our house, we want to remember that obviously all of these things that we have in our house have been made, they all exist, and to just throw them away is a waste. And really, I hate the waste. So this is kind of the reuse section of the 5 R's recycling bit. So whatever it is, you want to wear it out, you know, use it up, reuse it, upcycle it. Just think of a way that you can sort of keep it out of the bin for as long as possible. You know, as Daisy sort of touched upon earlier, we really don't want people to sort of go plastic free and think of it as a retail opportunity and that you have to buy all this new stuff. It's not an aesthetic, it's really a fundamental shift in a mindset, which we all need to embrace going forward, you know, with regards to our model of consumption. You know, we live on a finite planet and we cannot consume at the rate at which we are, just continuously. It just physically will not work. Physics will not allow the world to it's just going to end. So yeah, so what we kind of currently live in is very much a linear economy. We make things, we finish with it, it goes straight in the bin. We're kind of now moving to this sort of secondary recycling economy where, you know, oh, okay, we're buying it, but then we're going to recycle it, and that's great. But what we really want to be doing is kind of keeping all of those things out of the bin, because it also, not only do you keep them out the bin at the end, the kind of life cycle at the beginning is much, it's not as polluting as it was, you know, with the sort of plastics and the single use and the just throwing it away all the time. So yeah, I mean, also there's a sort of practical side to this as well. That, you know, whilst you use things up, it gives you more time to think about what it is that you're going to replace it with. So, you know, I sort of went through this sort of period of using, I don't know why I used to get all these little, you know, the little freebies and little hotel things. You take all the stuff and the free shampoo. So just use up all those shampoos, everything. So there's none left. And in that time, you know, I was able to think, okay, well, what is it that I'm going to buy next? You know, I'm going to try out. I discovered from Lush, actually. That was my first kind of like, oh, look at all these plastic-free options. Lush sold a shampoo bar. And so I decided once I used up all of my products, I would go to Lush and I would buy a shampoo bar. So it makes it kind of much less overwhelming to do it slowly. You've got time to research better alternatives. You know, it's cheaper because you're doing it sort of stage by stage. You know, I also sort of was able to look at things that are produced ethically or didn't contain palm oil and things like that. So it just buys you a bit more time. So simple swaps. So this is the kind of, you know, not reinventing the wheel. This is the kind of what we buy in, week out. It's the boring bog standard stuff. And we sort of tend to be habitual shoppers. So I guess with this tip, what I'm really saying is kind of step back from in that supermarket shelf and just kind of have a look and see what it is. You know, can you buy pasta in the cardboard box? You know, if you look on the shelf, you know, further back, okay, there's the pasta in the box as opposed to the pasta in the plastic. Like all of those little swaps, can you find them just super easy without any sort of effort or research or effort? You know, detergent can be go in cardboard boxes. You know, single-use razor blades, you can get a safety razor instead, which are a bit more expensive, but they save you money in the long run because they just have blades which are pennies. And you know, my ultimate favorite swap, which I wish I'd known about a long time ago, are reusable and toxic-free alternatives to periods. Yeah, which create so much waste. You know, they just cost a fortune year on year. They've got all sorts of grim chemicals in them, and I wish that I'd known about alternatives a long time ago. And it was just such a simple swap. It was the biggest no-brainer I have had in this entire journey to try and sort of live more sustainably, and yeah, wouldn't look back. The next one is shopping unpackaged. So I imagine sort of once you've done your bin audit, you can probably see that most of your packaging comes from food, which everybody I think will agree with. I guess the problem is we shop in supermarkets, and whilst they're making big claims about what they're doing in terms of reducing their plastic, really they're just tinkering. So this is a Greenpeace and the Environmental Investigation Agency. This is, for the last 3 years, they've been looking at what the supermarkets have been doing in their plastic policies and so on. So a few years ago, Iceland came top of the tree. They were sort of, you know, lauded for all their efforts in going plastic free. They were going to, by a certain date, I can't remember what it was, they were going to remove all the plastic packaging. They were going to remove palm oil. They were just seen as amazing. They could do no wrong. I go in there quite a lot. Well, not quite a lot. I go in there sort of if ever I'm passing in Hackney Central just to have a look. And yeah, I mean, look, they're number 10 this year. 3 years later, they've got nowhere. It's just so much talk around the supermarkets. It's just amazing how you can just talk and just not do anything. Just find it like amazing. And this is just basically what these charts show, you know, how they just move up and down. It's just, you know, they just throw them up in the air and see where they land this year, because really their sort of talk is meaningless. So as much as possible, if you can avoid shopping in supermarkets, that will probably reduce the amount of plastic that you use by a huge amount. You know, we're sort of always thinking about the demise of the high street, and, you know, it's because we're not shopping on them. but actually shopping on the high street often results in a sort of plastic reduced experience. You know, greengrocers, you can buy the majority of things in a greengrocer plastic free. Fishmongers or butchers, you know, you can bring your own Tupperware into there. They'll happily use that, because obviously all this packaging as well costs them money. So if they're not having to use it, it's saving them money. So and the first time you sort of go into somewhere and ask to use your Tupperware, it can feel slightly nerve-wracking. I am aware of this, but I don't know, it's really nice as well, because it tends to open up conversations and things like that, and you see that actually they don't like using all this packaging either, and they would like to see it a bit more like this, and it's just habitual and this, that and the other. So it just sort of opens up a talking point, which is quite nice. You know, even in my local deli, so I live in Clapton, so on Chatsworth Road there's the deli, L'Epicerie. They even give you a 10% discount if you shop with your own containers. Again, COVID has sort of, you know, it hasn't signaled the death knell for all of these things, but it's made it slightly trickier. But obviously now, as things open up a bit more, we should hopefully be going back on track, and these things will be available again. So there's also bulk stores which are popping up everywhere. In Hackney, we're super lucky. We've got loads of bulk stores. So these are shops where you can take your own packaging, fill it up, and so on. So there is, so City to Sea have got an app. So it's, so you can just download it onto your phone, and it's, so as it says here, connecting you to places, eat, drink and shop with less waste. And so this has got loads of different options of where you can buy things packaging free or plastic free. And so I recommend checking it out. It's really great. You know, if you have to shop at the supermarkets, you can try and avoid the plastic, you know, try and go for the sort of plastic free options, but I'm aware that often they're more expensive, annoyingly. You know, the loose options are more expensive, but you know, you can try and bring your own Tupperware and try and avoid things, you know, sort of buy the biggest option. I mean, you can make a stand and leave your packaging at the checkout if you feel brave. What else with regards to shopping? I mean, online shopping is a plastic minefield when you're thinking about sort of traditional retailers, and I know COVID sort of made that worse again. So I kind of gave up shopping online with sort of, you know, Morrison's and Ocado and all the rest of it. I think my moment was when, I think it was Morrison's, and they delivered an aubergine, and each aubergine was wrapped in like a sort of, it was like a sort of mesh thing that you used to get in airports around like alcohol bottles. It was like packaged like it was a Fabergé egg, and then each was in a plastic bag, and I just had a bit of a breakdown and stopped buying things from there. But, you know, there are sort of ways to shop online, you know, to sort of get that food delivery that aren't full of plastic. So as I mentioned briefly earlier, you know, the Milkman, and I think Milk and More, if you go onto their website, they have got a list of local milkmen. I know in Hackney there's Morton Dairies and there's Parker Dairies. So those are your sort of two local milkman options. And yes, again, there's an element where it's slightly more expensive, but I do kind of think with some of the things that I buy, it's like swings and roundabout, like that might be a bit more expensive, but then I get an odd box. So I get a veg box delivered each week, and that's cheaper than sort of what I was buying. So it sort of all goes round in a bit of a circle. So yeah, so one of the veg boxes I get is odd box, and that the majority of that comes packaging free. Then there's, you know, Riverford, there's lots of box schemes like that. Riverford, I know, have now a specific no plastic box. They've also changed their packaging to have, it's not plastic, it's, they say it's home compostable packaging, which I'm dubious about, but whatever. They say they'll take it back. They'll take, so they take the whole box back as well. So to be reused. You know, even flowers actually. So there is a box scheme called Freddie's Flowers. So if you want to treat yourself to flowers, that is plastic free, and you return the box and so on. So there are options for shopping without waste or plastic. So I mean, you know, it's no surprise really that we need to cook more based on what we're looking at in our bin, and the majority of it is sort of packaging. but you know, it's sort of, there's no real escaping the fact that convenience comes wrapped in plastic. If anything, you know, it's the rise of all this plastic packaging that has facilitated that kind of increase in convenience food, you know, from ready meals and takeaways, on the go food and drink. It's just really heavily swathed in plastic. So what can we do? We can try and cook more. And I don't, you know, I've never, this isn't a picture of me. I have never made one of these pasties. I've never made anything like that. You know, it's just kind of quick weekday suppers that you kind of have on rotation, that is kind of cheaper and healthier, and it's just another nice habit. It's nice to sit down at the end of the day with your family and just have a home cooked meal, and you can get them involved. And yeah, it's an enjoyable experience once you get into the habit. And there are sort of gadgets out there that you can sort of use to cut down on cooking times, like pressure cookers and slow cookers and things like that. You know, there's batch cooking and utilizing your freezer to make sure that there's always something that you can cook that's plastic free at the end of the day. And it's the same with a packed lunch, you know, sort of using last night's leftovers, taking that in. I mean, I suppose recently, also again, COVID wise, we've been eating a lot more at home, so we haven't been having to take out those lunches so much, but yeah. I don't know, and if it really is something that you find hard to do, maybe you can try and incentivize yourself, put that money towards something. Just say, right, all the money that I save on those lunches, I'm gonna put towards a trip away or something like that. But also, you know, I sort of also do like a takeaway, and thankfully there's companies like Dabadrop in Hackney which do plastic-free takeaways. It arrives in a tiffin tin, which is great, and they arrive on a bicycle, so it feels like pretty guilt-free. And also takeaways will accept your own packaging as well, your own Tupperware. So I have a slight addiction to a local Vietnamese restaurant around here, and they're more than happy to take our Tupperware in there. And again, it's one of those things where the first time you feel slightly nervous perhaps, but after a while they're more than happy, you're more than happy, and it just I don't know, it feels great to not have a bin full of sort of takeaway stuff. You know, you just put it in the dishwasher and you're done. So yeah. And leading on from that, so now that you're in the kitchen, you can start making some stuff yourself. So, you know, somebody was talking about deodorant, so you can make deodorants, all sorts of things. Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty amazed at the amount of things that you can actually make with ingredients from around the home that I've just been blindly buying for years, thinking that, you know, unless I was a scientist in a lab coat, I couldn't possibly know what I was doing. But actually, the majority of the sort of modern day cleaning products and beauty products and so on, a lot of them are just based on a few simple ingredients, and all they've done is substituted out the natural oils for synthetic oils, i.e. fossil fuels, to make it cheaper. And you know, they've just kind of, yeah, they've just added other chemicals and substituted other things. So all they've done is taken away that natural cleaning goodness and added toxic sort of evilness. And it's quite liberating actually, making your own products. It feels quite sort of empowering to sort of know that I don't need all this stuff. Like I make one thing and it does a multitude of jobs. Yeah, it was great. It was quite, I don't know, in lockdown, just kind of like, hey, I've run out of this, but I'm just going to make it myself again. Yeah, I mean, it avoids loads of sort of unnecessary chemicals. It's obviously plastic free and it feels immensely satisfying. But yeah, but they shouldn't be overly difficult. The point is not to make it, you know, life extremely hard on yourself. There is also refills in shops for a lot of cleaning products. Toilet cleaner, washing up liquid are just two of the things that I get refilled at the end of my road. Yeah, nothing should be a burden. This is all kind of good times. We're all having good times and we're just doing things that are going to make life easier for ourselves. Right, next, so stop spending. So this kind of links slightly back to the...
I'm just going to interject, Bettina. I think, I wonder if something's touching the microphone on your...
Okay, I'm stepping away from the machine.
Step away from the machine. Well done.
Okay.
And go.
Yeah, stop spending. Stop spending, guys. Yeah, sometimes I think this should be the first point. It's just, obviously not stop spending. Everybody, we need to spend money. It's we're just going to reduce. We're thinking back to that 5 R's, and we're just going to reduce the amount we spend. This is a lovely quote by Anna Lapper. Every time you spend money, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want. And I think that's very true. I think, you know, if we vote with our wallets, if we say, oh, we just want all the plastic, they're just going to keep making the plastic. You know, in a time where you can feel, as citizens, you can feel quite disenfranchised when you feel like you're not being listened to and no change is happening. And we are seen as consumers. Yeah, I sometimes feel like we're not seen as citizens anymore. We're just seen as consumers. And so really, if we're seen as consumers, well, then that's where the power lies. And so how we spend our money is a vote every time. So yeah, we just want to sort of choose to avoid overly packaged products, pointless packaging, and questioning retailers on all the bad practices. Just sending a message that we don't want or need all the plastic that's forced upon us. Also, there's kind of, you know, social justice issues as well with kind of what we're buying. If things are too cheap, it's often a case that someone has paid the price somewhere. You know, would they sort of, you know, I think the Rana Plaza was a really famous incident of that, of women in Bangladesh who were making our clothes for sort of fast fashion brands who died when the building collapsed. You know, it's kind of, maybe we should pay more than £3 for a t-shirt or whatever. So they're getting paid more and the building is safe and so on. So there's all the carbon that's embedded in those products as well, all the way along the line. So if we can sort of reduce the amount we buy, we reduce all of these things. There's the hierarchy of needs. This is quite good. So this kind of can help you sort of think about how you spend your money and how you kind of can reduce the amount you spend on the things. Because I think it's very, we live in a kind of, we've just been conditioned that, you know, it's not even a case of needing things, it's wanting things. So if we want something, we can get it. But I think we need to start thinking a bit more about what we need rather than want. So this hierarchy of needs kind of sort of spells it out. So initially kind of, right, I really want that new jacket. Okay, well, can I use what I've got? You know, have I already got a jacket that's basically the same jacket, possibly with a different style or whatever? Or can I borrow that jacket from a friend? Can I swap it? Can I thrift it? I.e., can I buy it secondhand? Can I make it? And lastly, can I buy it? Yeah, I mean, swapping and shopping secondhand. I never used to do at all really until a couple of years ago, and I'm a full convert now. I really, it's very satisfying. It's very, well, it's cheap. It's much cheaper than buying new things. I think I'm shocked at the price of things when I go into a shop now because I'm just not used to it. And it's just keeping those things out of landfill. It's just keeping things in the world. I mean, there's talking about clothes, you know, I mean, I think it was on the it was on the Sewing Bee, and they came out with a statistic that, you know, if we didn't make any new clothes, that we'd still have enough clothes on the planet to clothe like the next, was it like 4 generations or 6 generations? It was like just something really shocking that actually we're just making stuff all the time and we don't really need it. You know, secondhand as well. You know, I've got 2 small boys. They're really into Lego and Playmobil and all the plastic things. And so I just have a rule where, yeah, I am going to buy them those things, but I'm just going to buy them secondhand. I'm going to look on eBay. eBay is your friend for people that are new to the world of secondhand shopping. It's amazing and saves so much money. So it saves me money. The boys get the Playmobil thing. Something hasn't ended up in the bin. They're happy. They don't know it's secondhand. It's new to them, and that's all they care about. Yeah. So yeah, stop spending. And finally, my final tip is to get involved. I really do believe that as individuals, we have huge amounts of power, but that really comes into its own when we act together. So, you know, can you get involved? Can you see what's happening in your local community? Is there a Friends of the Earth or Greenpeace group? Is there a group such as Plastic-Free Hackney, you know, that you could sort of volunteer for and spend some time with and just helping to sort of amplify voices and amplifying those messages of change. You know, even if it's signing a petition or writing to your MP, just small things like that really sort of, you know, build up. I mean, you know, grassroots organizations really sort of need your help to get the voices amplified. You know, we've got COP26 coming up soon. Can you, you know, just, I think even, yeah, just add your voice to something to say that how we want to shape the future is super important. You know, can you think about, is it even something like your work, is it a plastic disaster zone? You know, is your block of flats, people not recycling, you know, properly? Is the bin area just a joke? All the rest of it. You know, can you sort of be the person that says enough is enough, and speak to people to make positive changes sort of wherever they are? Complacency will lead to politicians and businesses hoping that we've all forgotten about the plastic crisis and revert to the bad old days. So yeah, I do think it's up to all of us to create a plastic-free world for future generations to be able to enjoy. And so I hope these tips have spurred you on to do that and have made you think that it's not that overwhelming and that you might be able to do something. Thank you very much for listening. Here are all of our details. For further tips on low waste living or to find how you can get involved with Plastic-Free Hackney, you can find us here. So yeah, we have all the socials and things. You can email either myself or Daisy directly, or hello@Plastic-Free Hackney. And this is an exciting QR code where you can join our mailing list. So all you have to do is scan that. Yeah, so I'm now going to stop sharing and see all your faces and hope they're not all in shock. I can't. Oh. Stop the share.
Okay, everybody should look very shocked.
Ah. Weird. Very weird. I don't know how. Anyway, yeah, thanks for listening, guys. I hope that was useful. We're now going to sort of hand you over to Rachel and Alice from OurPledge. And so I'm going to just let them introduce themselves. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Bettina and Daisy. That was epic. It's like save chat. Yeah, there was so many fantastic recommendations, and also a lot that resonates with what we're going to talk about. So I think you've probably saved us some time as well, because we are certainly sort of singing from the same hymn sheet. So I am now going to share my screen. I just have to bring it up into present mode. Hopefully everyone can see that. I can only see Bettina. Can you see it? You can see it. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, so we're just going to take a moment now just to introduce our pledge, which, as Bettina said, is myself and Alice here today. And just to talk a bit about the work that we're doing to reduce plastic in Hackney and in Waltham Forest, neighbouring borough, and beyond, but that's where we're focusing for this presentation in particular. So yeah, what is our pledge? I expect you probably haven't heard of us, although I did recognise some names, so nice to see some of you who've maybe been to things that we've run before. But yes, so we were founded in 2019 as a sustainability consultancy and fundraising platform. And I'll talk a bit about how we work in more detail in a minute. But ultimately, our mission is to work with businesses and consumers to help them live a more sustainable plastic-free life. And we do see the connection between business and consumer as really key to making some changes. Just to build on exactly where Bettina finished the presentation, you know, we are, unfortunately, our power does lie with us, our consumer choices. And whilst we shift from you know, consumers to citizens, and then beyond citizenship to or human citizenship to ecosystemic citizenship, we need to kind of disrupt the consumer norms that we're part of now, sort of accepting we are where we are and doing what we can to kind of interrupt our habits together. So we believe that there's a lot that can be done from that space, with that, and also accepting that we do have to buy some things, and so what we want to kind of join together to bring choice to closer to us, basically to our local shops. So we are here to encourage and support communities to understand, and obviously sometimes it's very confusing, as we've been talking about in the chat a bit, you know, how to be plastic free, what do different terminologies mean, how do you become zero waste, is that possible, and so on. So it's all about demystifying and de-risking sustainable choices so that they become easy and accessible, affordable, and hopefully fun to buy and not a massive drag. Why do we exist? Well, I really 100% don't need to show you this slide because Bettina and Daisy have nailed it. But yes, current consumer behaviour is damaging the earth. And actually, Hugo Tagholm, I assume that's how you pronounce his name, I'm not sure. But the chief executive of Surfers Against Sewage, you know, really highlighted that plastic pollution and climate change are these dual, massive and interconnected issues that we have to tackle. They are very dangerous and damaging and looming, and so which can feel really overwhelming. But actually, one of the things that we find in all the conversations that we've had and the research that we've done over the past year, and I'm sure you've probably felt this as well, is that there's a big movement for positive change, and there are lots of people getting behind this kind of realization. I think the pandemic has kind of shifted perspective in some way. And we have realised about things about supply chains, you know, even the big boat sort of made us realise, oh yeah, things get made somewhere and then they get packaged somewhere and then they get delivered to us. And, you know, that sort of awareness of the origins of things has been quite profound. And also we've seen how consumer behaviour has, you know, mass production and fast fashion and all those things have really damaged local independent businesses, but actually we're in a real kind of phase of wanting to come back and fight back for independent businesses and for the planet, and understanding that those two things can be really interconnected, that buying local is part of buying with a conscious choice for the, you know, for the protection of the planet. So I think there's a real movement that we're just starting to feel, so we're really trying to tap into that. I will also hopefully now play you a video that tells you a bit more about us and our work. Then I'll talk about some things in detail, and then I'm going to talk about exactly what we're doing in Hackney. I'm going to press this button. Theoretically, it should take us to a YouTube channel, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the sound. Come on, internet, you can do it.
I'm not getting any sound.
You can't hear the sound?
No.
Nobody can hear any sound? Just me?
Just you.
Okay. Well, I'll just tell you. I think it's easy enough to explain. I just wanted you to see some of the shops and businesses that we work with, and just to show you the kind of spectrum of clients that we have and some of the work we've done. But I will send a link. Actually, perhaps Alice, you could put a link to that YouTube channel in the chat, although you might not have it readily available to you, but I'll make sure it gets shared. So back into presentation. Yeah, so the way that we work, so what the video would hopefully have told you is that we work with all businesses. So anyone who's interested in reducing their plastic waste, and you'll see we kind of can go from a very plastic heavy shop through to like pet shops that are already doing little bits, fitness studio like you saw George there, but it's all about taking the heavy lifting away from business owners to help them move towards being plastic free. Because if businesses are more plastic free, then we as residents and citizens and consumers can more easily be plastic free. So we kind of like trying to intervene to help and catalyze that transition. So the way that we do that is to obviously start talking to our prospective collaborators, and that might be a business or it might be an individual who says, hey, I really love this shop, but you know, they're not doing that much, and I think there could be more, and I think there's a few people who shop here who'd be behind it. So we'll sit down with the owner of that business and just start talking to them about what is the day-to-day sort of journey of their business. What are they doing on a day-to-day basis? Where is plastic waste being produced? Where do they get their suppliers from? Who's their energy provider? Where are the pain points? And then just a general kind of overview of what is going on for them, so that we understand the context that they're operating in. You know, most people who own a small business, who own retail, are really, really busy. Lots of people have families. They are quite stressed. So thinking about climate change and new alternatives to sort of tried and tested products can be really overwhelming. So we're there to kind of sort of soothe the transition and help make it feel a little less overwhelming. And as I said, just to do a bit more of the kind of work that maybe feels like something they should be doing, but isn't something that is possible to do. We then, and again, we always talk about de-risking. So we then tend to, not always, but we tend to do a quick customer survey, which is a kind of launch pad for a conversation. We speak to customers, we do some in-depth interviews, we'll share a SurveyMonkey link, you know, do all the kind of bits and bobs to dig into what a local community might already feel about sustainability and single-use plastics, and start to have a conversation. And that's a kind of door opener for saying, well, look, you know, we're thinking about maybe fitting a refill station, or replacing some of these products, or getting a milk dispenser. You know, what do you think? And also that's a bit of a data gathering exercise, so that we can understand who the customers and participants in that transition might be, and start that conversation. Then we analyse that data, we look at what the business wants to do, we look at what the customers want to do, and we create a kind of roadmap and say, actually, we think that you could do this quite easily. It's not going to cost too much money, and it's going to be quite effective, and here are your impacts. And for some cases, if the business wants to be quite ambitious and it is going to cost a bit more money, then we have a crowdfunding platform embedded in our website. So we can own and run what is effectively a crowdfunding campaign, where customers commit to buy single-use plastic-free or refillable or renewable options, bulk options. So effectively, we're asking customers to say, you know, if we supply these things, will you buy them? And customers putting their money where their mouth is and saying, yes, absolutely. If you bring these products to me, here's my £20, here's my £30, here's my £60, however generous people want to feel, towards that item. And that's for a voucher that can be redeemed once that product is in the store. So customers are basically collaborating with the business to prove demand and provide cash flow upfront, so that these changes, which can be a bit costly, can take place much more quickly. And then obviously at the end of that, we will hand over all the data to the shop, so that they continue that relationship with their customers. And just to kind of bring that into the real world, just to kind of give you a real world example, I'm just going to talk you through this case study, which is from a convenience store owned by Adrian and Ocken, that you can see in this photograph here. This is them in their old shop. So this was my local mini market. I adore Adrian and Ocken. If you've ever been in there, you know, you will probably adore them too. They have a really loyal following. They're very much part of the community. This is actually in Leytonstone, and they had already become slightly aware of the climate crisis, and were like, oh, maybe we're selling a lot of plastic stuff, and their customers were going, oh, I think we're buying a lot of plastic stuff. So there was a general level of awareness that there might be something here to be done. And so over 2 campaigns, they suggested options to their customers. The first thing they said was, hey, you know, if we built a refill station, would you buy refillable products? Like, would you spend money on pasta, rice, grains, laundry detergent? What else was in the first one? I think we had, like floor cleaner and that kind of thing. And customers said, yes, we would. Here is our money. We had a target of, I think, £5,000 for the first one. We raised £7,000. that was great. We installed the refill station with them. And of course, as soon as we'd done that, sales were going up, people were coming in, it was a talking point, and everyone who pledged said, when can we do it again? And the upshot of that was that Adrian and Jochen actually expanded out of this shop into a new shop that was effectively funded by their community, by their customers, and was all done in a way that de-risked the process for them and was a conversation with their customer base to say, would you like us to have refillable kombucha, or would you rather that we did a beauty bar first, or should we just stick with, refillable tea and coffee? And so they were constantly getting feedback through these pledges, through these conversations, that reassured them that yes, actually they could put down the deposit on the peanut butter machine because everyone's going to come in and buy the peanut butter. And as you can see, they went from a really basic convenience store. They sell craft beers, which is one of their kind of USPs. But other than that, it was very much kind of plastic heavy space, really. And we reckon that over a year, they would have saved about 100,000 individual plastic packages from sales. And they've had a significant increase. And they also, I'm just getting my earring off because I'm conscious it's knocking against my microphone probably. They also found that they have massive negotiating power with suppliers. So they went from being quite a small shop that actually sometimes found it hard to kind of get people to supply to them because they were very small and further down the chain, to going, hey, look, we've got all these people saying they want to buy this product, so you better bring it on. And also because they were getting a lot of attention, people were kind of being more flexible with them. So they got, free PR and marketing and this inbuilt market research. And then, of course, these lovely customers who sort of now refer to the new shop as their shop. And so that's a really good example of it working really well. Just to give you a kind of a snapshot of what we're doing at the moment, we had a bit of a pandemic-induced break on campaigns because everything was so uncertain, but we're back now and we're working with some clients in London and actually in the southwest of the UK. And actually, I haven't spoken very much about Alice, but Alice is here with us, and I can't see, but I know Minu has been a part of this evening. That's Alice's cat. But Alice came on board, I think around December last year, off the back of a career in quite large-scale events, actually. And I'd had a little kind of inkling that events maybe would be something I'd like to do, but Alice has kind of really come on board and brought a vision to what we're doing, which is effectively enabling us through events like this evening, through a series of events that I'll talk about in a minute, to share information. We're talking in the chat about sharing. And that's it. We need to do this work and then tell other people how to do it and share it and work on this together, because that's going to be the momentum that we need to kind of catalyze and make this movement, or make this into a movement and make the movement into something that really makes change. So we've been running events and partnering with all sorts of people to get that work further seen and get the conversation going. And out of those events, we publish guides where we say, hey, look, we've had fantastic ideas in the chat, and there was this idea shared, and we'll put those all in a document so everyone has access to them after the event. And we also support things like town teams and the Business Recovery Board in Waltham Forest, so that we can make sure that sustainability is at the heart of COVID recovery. And then we're also sort of innovating beyond the platform we have at the moment. I'm just going to say this because I think it might be of relevance. We're doing a series of events in Waltham Forest, which is obviously not in Hackney, but very close to, and is part of our sort of pandemic recovery plan. And actually, this comes back to something somebody said earlier. So we are running a plastic-free kids fair. So that was, somebody said that in the Mentimeter, and yeah, it's something that comes up time and again. So we are literally just finalising the details for that. So we'll be publishing information, and that will just be an afternoon where you can drop in and find out about plastic-free kids, party ideas and party bag ideas and this, that and the other. We're doing workshops for young leaders. We're doing workshops on everyday actions. So actually the plastic-free Hackney make your own products, be brilliant for that. We are hoping to organise a Zero Waste Expo to showcase all the range of plastic-free retail options there are available for shops if they just want to have a go and, you know, just get a refill dispenser in or just get a water refiller in there. We're going to make that happen. Talk about how to engage with policymakers. We're talking about COP26. So how do we talk to the right people to get the right message to have an effect? And then by Christmas, we can talk about having a plastic-free, zero waste festive fair. But none of that is as important as, drum roll, what I want to just talk about tonight as a soft launch. But we are collaborating with Hackney Council, and we're super excited about this. Now, this is a very, as I say, this is a soft launch. This is a pilot term. This is not yet 100% nailed down. So you are the first to know. But we are absolutely delighted and very grateful to be working with Hackney Council to trial our campaign process with businesses in Hackney. So trying to create a kind of route through the borough that connects local businesses who are pledging to reduce their plastic with customers who can support them, because without the customers, the businesses are going to fall flat. So we need to showcase the businesses, make sure people know where they are, make sure people know what the options are that are available in those shops, make sure that we're not missing anything, that residents are going, oh, I wish we had this, and businesses don't know, so that we can get that knowledge into the shops to go, God, you know, everyone wants to buy plastic-free toothpaste and nobody's selling it around here. So that is going to be really good for business. So really joining the dots between what residents want and what businesses want. And as I say, collaborating together to make these changes. I think the objectives are obvious, and I'm conscious that I've done a lot of talking and we want to have time for a Q&A. Basically, the objective is to reduce plastic waste and to get some good vibes going in the borough around doing that and seeing change and seeing that trickle down change from, if a business is reducing plastic and we as residents are able to buy less plastic packaged goods, then that means we're throwing less packaging away. So that is a win-win. And that goes back to Bettina's circular economy diagram there. We just want to be buying things that don't create waste. So we keep them in the economy in whatever format, and zero waste buying is really a part of that. I've talked about how we work, so I won't go into that too much. But what's very important to say is that we will be going out to businesses in the borough and saying that this is what we're doing and talking to them about it. And so if you want to be a part of that, or if you want to find out more, please sign up to our mailing list. And Alice, I know you do have the link for that, so you can pop that in the chat. You can follow us on social media. You can recommend shops that you'd like to see get support or talk to them about the scheme. You can join Plastic-Free Hackney, so I think the link for that has already been shared. And also we are going to be expanding and looking for some support with our work. So we have some new roles coming up. We'll be looking for people to work with us in various capacities, from marketing to event assistance. So please get in touch, and we'll put our details in the chat and also in the document that we share afterwards. I think Bettina already mentioned that. So hopefully that wasn't too whistle stop, and if you have any questions, we're really happy to answer them. And thank you so much for being here, and thank you to Plastic-Free Hackney for having us. Thank you to Hackney Council for supporting us, and speak to you all now. Now in the chat, go.
Right. I have been taking some notes of some of the things that people have been talking about. We've got someone called Andrew Matthews. Is Andrew, are you still here?
Hello.
Hey, Rachel.
Hey.
So Andrew's starting a reusable takeaway scheme for food and drink containers, which is a very exciting thing.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's called Reuser, and yeah, it's basically I think we were talking earlier about how it's quite inconvenient to bring your own. Well, it can be inconvenient sometimes, or you just are rubbish at remembering to bring your own cup or bring your own food box. And, so this is basically a solution where you wouldn't have to bring it with you, and you could just basically get the containers while you're on the go. You scan a QR code, get your coffee in the reuser coffee cup, and when you're done with it, you return it back to one of the partner vendors. And we're talking with Hackney Council about maybe having some public drop site bins as well. And so kind of like trying to remove that decision between, convenience and reuse, trying to kind of bring those together and offer just a convenient solution, because we all need to be supporting local businesses and events. And especially, after COVID, a lot of them have had a tough time, and, not going and supporting them because we would produce more waste shouldn't be an obstacle that we face.
It's very exciting, Andrew. This is something Bettina and I have been banging on about for a long time, thinking what we really want someone to start doing is some form of a reuse depot, and imagine all of the businesses getting involved, and wouldn't it be a lovely collaboration? And we can't do it, and there you are. So that's lovely.
And Judith, actually, who was on this, has been working with me on this as well. And but yeah, we're kind of targeting Broadway Market for an initial launch, and just trying to nail down the first pilots. But Rachel and I, we need to catch up again, and we need to finally catch up.
I was literally like, I'm just going to send you a message.
Yeah, we'll do that after. But it'd be great to have some sort of, we could maybe work together to show the demand, to some of these prospective shops and stuff. So
there are lots of nodding heads. The people who aren't black squares are nodding heads at the moment, which is very nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does also have any questions. If they want.
Christina, is Christina still here? I don't know. She may or she may not be here. Anyway, Christina had made a comment about bioplastics. When we were talking about recycling and waste, and this is always a good moment to talk about the fact that all of those seemingly lovely options of it's not plastic because it's made from plant starch is really never a viable option, and that the waste centres hate them because they can't be recycled. So when people put them in their recycling, they contaminate the plastic stream. So people then will say, what is it? So it's not plastic, and it says it's made of plant, so I'll put it in my compost bin, but it's not compostable either. And the people at the anaerobic digestion unit are told by the council to remove anything that looks like plastic, and they're obviously not going to be sort of searching through every individual item saying, oh, well, I think that's not a plastic fork, but possibly it is. So actually the only place that they end up is in the bin, in the residual waste, at which point they're really, yes, they haven't been made with fossil fuels, but they have been grown on land that should be used for food production, and often they're made from corn, which is very water intensive, and they're funded by the oil industry. So it's not even murky, actually, it's just awful. So bioplastics, no.
And it's a sad greenwash as well, because it's, you get lots of businesses and they really are trying to do the best thing, and they've been sold the lie of the vegware and the other things. And really, if we could just sort of talk about reuse and kind of, sort of things like that, that's where we need to be moving. It's just also substituting one throwaway item for another throwaway item, and that's kind of what we need to stop doing. It's just throwing away the things.
Jordan says that they cut them up and into little pieces to put in their compost. Well, I guess if you're home composting it, you could have a go, but generally how they work is that it's only, so it's a city compost. So the problem is that they have to be hot composted. So home composting is cold, hot composting has to get to at least 65, 70 degrees, which is sort of steaming, which in theory, those products could go into the council collection waste. But because we're so bad at recycling anyway, if anything looks like it's going to be plastic and put into the food compost, it's going to be automatically assumed that it is a contaminant. And there's currently only one dedicated place that processes them, and it's up in Scotland. So then even if a company has a contract with a supplier like Vegware to process these items, they've then got to be transported all the way to Scotland to then be composted. I mean, it's completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Note the frustration.
Yeah. Can I just add to that super quickly, because we've been doing a kind of research project on this as well, and there are so many terms like biodegradable or degradable or compostable, and for the most part they all mean the same thing, which is exactly what you're saying. So they're all just really misleading terms. There is a home compost stamp that does mean you can put things in your home compost for cold composting or in your food waste bin, which is what we've been trying to source to support some shops, because obviously there's so many plastic bags being given away still. And actually, one thing I will say, many people don't realise that it's actually the law now for shops, any shops, not just supermarkets, to charge 10p per plastic bag. So if you want to do, if you want to kind of make that a point, you can, if somebody tries to give you a plastic bag, first of all, obviously say no, but also remind them that they can be charging 10p per bag if they want. Well, they should. I mean, legally they are obliged to do that by the law. Though many people aren't doing that. Yeah. So just to say that. Muted.
I was muted. Carol was talking about Oddbox and how they really wanted to do Oddbox, but they were having a problem with having it delivered.
Yeah, so the problem is that I moved to a flat, like a complex, where they would have to ring the bell basically to get into the building, and we don't have a night concierge, so all they can do is leave it outside the door, which is right on the main street, and that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I would definitely try giving their customer service a call to see. Yeah, I mean, I know they do deliver at night because I wake up in the morning, there's a box there. But yeah, you could see, because they do have a window of time, so maybe they could sort of do something where they could come when the concierge is there. Yeah,
I mean, as long as it's at a time where we're kind of awake, they can ring the doorbell, but I just don't want my flatmates to wake up because of it, you know?
I mean, they did. I remember when I first started getting them, and they did put a note on my account. I mean, they stopped doing it, and then it sort of kind of worked out what they didn't. I didn't need it anymore, but they did put a note on my account to knock on the door if they arrived before 11 o'clock or something. So maybe you could try something like that.
Okay, I'll have a look. Thank you.
But then there's also sort of, they're probably, where do you live in? Are you in Hackney?
No, I'm in Tower Hamlets.
Oh, okay.
I'm in Bow.
Because there are sort of lots of local, like growing communities, and lots of local sort of other sort of box schemes that you could try as well. I'll find out. We'll ask the community of Hackney gardeners to find. We'll find out. We'll put it.
Sounds good. Yeah, I used to go to Victoria Park Market on Sundays, but I moved away from the park, and now it feels like it's a bit too far.
Okay.
So I'm gonna fire through some of the other things that in the Mentimeter people were saying they were having difficulty finding plastic free. So toothbrush is quite there are toothbrushes you can at most health food shops, they will sell bamboo toothbrushes. They're quite easily accessible. I wonder if it was an electric toothbrush that the person was finding difficult.
So
you're going to object. Go.
Interject. So I have also seen a bamboo electric toothbrush head. I've seen that on Instagram.
There is.
Even also Colgate have now started selling a bamboo toothbrush as well. So that's kind of made it more mainstream, alongside all of their plastic ones. But yeah, so they're quite easy to find now.
Yeah. Also, if you have an existing electric toothbrush, Worth, WEARTH, do recyclable electric toothbrush heads. They come with a bag that you can send them back to them in. So you don't have to throw your old toothbrush away if you have an electric toothbrush already.
Excellent. Cotton buds. I don't think you can get plastic. I don't think you can get plastic ones anymore. I think they're out.
They're illegal now.
Yeah.
One of the things that are banned.
There's a company called Last Swab that does those. I don't know if they're in America or in here too, in the UK, but
they should all be doing it now, because it's banned in the UK. That was one of the few things that was banned. And
I think Last Swab, the one that Andrew is talking about, is that the reusable one. It keeps on being advertised to me, and I there's something slightly icky about washing. I don't know, like washing out my earwax, and I don't know. But you know, maybe there's not. You know, I'm getting some responses of like some facial expressions of just like learn to love your earwax. Yeah. Wash it.
I mean, that company Last Object, they've got like lots of different like reusable stuff, but I think they started with the swab.
Yeah, I recently had my ears pierced, and so I've been back to doing like the saline solution and the cotton buds. Right, I really don't feel I could do a reusable cotton bud with that, but you know, maybe I could have a go. So skincare, we have said, so we've recommended Sheer Alchemy, so it's run by a local Hackney woman, and she's very nice. Do you not think? I think she's local.
No, I don't think she is. Anyway. Anyway, but you know what? Actually, you know that. So I do find that sort of with cosmetics and beauty brands and things like that, you know, whether you know, with my cynical hat on, they're jumping on the green bandwagon and trying to do better, or they're just trying to do better. So I do like to peruse in TK Maxx every now and again and see what they've got. And I did find that in Hackney Central in TK Maxx, I managed to come out with quite a lot of, well, just like soap. I mean, you know, like fancier soap instead of a body wash, and like sort of, you know, like a face thing that was in a glass jar. You know, there's just more. I kind of had quite a good like little plastic-free shop of just soap and shampoo and conditioner, and even interdental sticks. You know, like the little flossy things.
Yeah.
The bamboo. So yeah, they're I think, and obviously Instagram is a source. I think all you have to do is mention plastic-free beauty products in a room, you know, with your phone in another room, and then somehow you'll get an Instagram advert for it like the next day. I don't know how it works. There's some sort of weird magic. I've turned off Siri, I've turned off everything, and still my phone can read my thoughts. So just think about it and it'll come up on your phone. It'll come up in like a media feed somewhere, like a creepy watcher.
I wanted to mention something to Rachel. Do you know, you were talking about the kids party, like a plastic-free kids party event. Do you know about the Party Kit Network? So
I don't know about the
Party Kit Network is a great thing, which I am part of, but that is not why I'm mentioning it. So it's basically, it's a database where loads of different parents and sometimes like parent-teachers associations are sharing boxes of like low-cost cups and plates and bowls and reusable stuff, and sometimes that includes decorations that you can rent out. So I set it up at my kids' primary school, and so you can borrow the kit for free, and then you just return it clean. And it's one of those really simple solutions that, you know, because it's only a few years when kids like having lots of parties, and then they sort of slim it down. well, my children did, but it's another very good resource of sharing things, and also to say that the Library of Things, to check whether everybody knew about the organisation Library of Things, the fact that the one in Hackney Wick is now opened, and the one at in Dalston at the CLR Library will be opening, I think, at the end of the summer.
What was the other sharing thing that the power tools?
Oh, yes, I think it was called, let me just have a check. I think it was called Street something. So I find Nextdoor quite helpful for borrowing stuff. Nextdoor is useful so long as you never talk to anybody about traffic. Street Bank. So there's another slightly kind of less active network called streetbank.com, and then you can register something like, you know, if you've got a ladder that you're happy to lend to people, then they can find it on that and then, you know, book it. And again, it's you know, there's no money changes hands. Library of Things, there is a small hire fee. I haven't used it yet, but I'm excited. Yeah, and you know, like in an ideal world, wouldn't it just be that you've got 2 ladders on the street and everybody borrows one, and then you've made community friends? It's just like, oh,
yeah. There's a funny statistic about drills that says like every drill that, like, everyone has a drill, but we all use it only like 10 minutes in its whole entire lifetime. So you only really need one drill for the whole community. Yeah.
Yeah, I told that statistic to somebody and they said, oh, but then that makes me think, how long does every drilling project take? That, you know, maybe it was just moments that the drill was in the wall. And I was like, yeah, possibly. Are there any other questions? I'd like someone to go on. Somebody send us a really hard one, like you're never going to solve this one.
Is there an online men's clothing rental platform?
Oh, there must be.
It's all female focused.
Moss Bros?
Yes, old school. But I was listening to the radio yesterday, and actually there was somebody has done a study on what was the best form of clothing, like rental, buying secondhand, like just not buying something, all the rest of it. And they did it on jeans, but I guess it can kind of be applied to other things as well. And actually the rental sector came out worse in terms of carbon emissions and things like that, because transport is such a huge part of that sort of life cycle, you know, the emissions part of it. So it was all that kind of the dress coming back, the dress going out, you know, whatever it is, that side of things actually caused huge amounts of emissions. So actually you probably don't want to be renting. You want to be just not buying anything new and wearing those jeans or whatever until they fall apart.
Yeah. And also wearing things a lot of times, like many. Yeah.
Ooh, there's a good
item you own is the one that you already own.
We've got some good challenges. So along the medical line, so medications and other medical devices, and also tattooing.
Oh.
These are things I have not thought about. You can, any plastic-free options are the corn plastics, I believe. Is there anything better for tattooing? Gosh, I've got no idea.
I mean, beeswax is used for the cling film substitute, right?
Yeah, would you want to be?
I don't
know. Over your new tattoo.
Maybe you can make an exception for that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of thing with the medications. And I mean, it does feel ridiculous that now all medicine comes in those little packets. There is I think Tetra Pak or similar do a returns.
Do they? Have a look.
Yeah.
But I kind of, you know, this is where, you know, when I get the sort of like, you know, why are you trying to reduce plastic? Like, it's saved our lives. And I do kind of, it's where I'm like, yes, I'm not saying let's get rid of the MMR machine. And, you know, I think that's where I'm like, if we only use plastics for medical benefit, then I'm happy with it. You know, it's sort of, that I just think that we need to stop buying bottles of Coke. and you know, like all the sort of stupid things. Like I would get rid of all of that stuff and keep the medical facilities available to all.
Yeah,
sort of medicine.
You're absolutely right. There is a TerraCycle scheme.
Yeah, and then the thing. I mean, I just don't know.
I guess I don't know if this was mentioned during the grocery thing, but we'd probably be remiss to not talk about it. But the just Loop, like TerraCycle's company Loop, like they're the ones who are like partnering with the big grocery store chains. Like I think they have Tesco partnership.
Yeah.
But
so
you have to pay like 50 quid up front or something. Or 60,
so Loop just sent me an email actually. So Loop are now like they're fully integrating with Tesco. So Loop, for anyone who doesn't know about what it is, it's when you buy your online shopping at Tesco, there are some products that they will deliver to you in a reusable, refillable container. So you have to put down a deposit for the container, and then at the end of kind of you wanting to use the system, you get your money back. And so I was quite excited about doing it because I was like trying something new and not buying something new, obviously. I was really disappointed because I think it would work really well if you weren't going to change any of your shopping methods, and you got extra money to spend, and I felt that they were kind of like trying to kind of net maybe the sort of Waitrose bracket of customer, because the things that were available were quite expensive, but you had to. I realised that it was going to make me buy more stuff than I actually wanted to buy. And I was going to have a lot of space to store those things. It also arrived in a really big container that you have to store, and it was being transported back to Nottingham, and the whole sort of, although it's like, yes, it's a good system to be looking at, it really just compounded for me that like if I'm living somewhere like London and I've got lots of local facilities to be using, they are so preferable to Loop. And it was also just like this really big, this big container came, and I only had like 8 things in it, and this giant box that had come from Nottingham that was going to be going back to Nottingham, which had just got like my refillable Smarties in it, and
there's so many local zero waste shops or just local shops like doing plastic-free stuff. Like you might as well support, like even if we were getting stuff with packaging, I would still want to support those over like Tesco anyways, right? Just here's a couple other ones actually I'll just put in because they're relevant to it. So Zero, they're delivering from, they're partnering with zero waste shops and then delivering like their zero waste goods, and they're serving Hackney, Islington, and Tower Hamlets. And
they're actually the people who Get Loose use, and so Get Loose in Hackney is probably the most economic refill shop. If anyone doesn't know about it, it's a really nice shop that's set up as a charity, so that it's all run by volunteers to keep their costs as low as possible, and it's part of Hackney City Farm, and they use Zero for their deliveries.
And then this one is called Circla, and it's for all you ladies out there in beauty products. So it's a reuse that they just focus, I think, mostly on beauty products, but and like household stuff, but like zero waste stuff. So it's another one to check out.
On going back to takeaways, actually, there's also Too Good to Go. Which is a good way of using up whatever's left at the end of the day for takeaways at low prices. So it doesn't necessarily solve the packaging issue, but it does mean
I've been talking with them, and they just have a clear corporate directive to not like mess around with the packaging, but like that could change in the future. But
it's a different issue. It's a food-based issue, but yeah, exactly. exactly. Yeah.
Arguably a bigger issue.
Yeah.
They're both big issues.
Yeah.
All the issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's too many.
There's too many. And on the medicine one, I mean, this is a completely left field thing, but the NHS is a massive, it generates a lot of emissions. And my partner works in anaesthetics, and he's been doing a project to reduce carbon emissions from anaesthetic gases. So there are all these different starting points for where waste comes from. And if you know about, so that's just a shout out to anyone who's interested, who works in the NHS and who might want to take on, this is a project that's rolling out to reduce emissions, because there's so many emissions that are created through operations, and that can be changed. But that's a completely different thing. But just because it was asked, I thought, I'll say in case there's anyone from the NHS here who might want to speak to my partner about that.
She's an anaesthetist as well, and she sort of at home she's like really careful and tries to sort of live like low waste and all the rest of it. But then she gets to work and she has to put her like work hat on.
Yes.
She has to ignore it, because she sent me pictures before, and she's like, this was just one small thing, and it's just like really,
it's crazy. Yeah.
rubbish.
Well, there is a project where you can basically just do a switch for different gases, and it will reduce the carbon emissions of operations by about 2,000%. It's amazing. But anyway, that's a completely separate. But I'm glad I mentioned it because there's a link.
Thanks, Medoa. Thanks.
Yeah.
Should we pop the polls out?
Yes, that's a good point, actually. Sorry, we should have done that earlier. That's annoying. There's just a couple of anonymous, one poll with a few questions. It's anonymous. So if you would like to just fill it in, we would really appreciate that. It just helps us with the thing.
Helps us with the money. Asking the people for the money, it's helpful.
So yeah, thank you for coming, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting and learned something new. And yes, we have another workshop, which I think Daisy put in the chat. We've got our next workshop coming up in September, which one's the first one? Toiletries or cleaning products? Cleaning products. Make your own plastic-free cleaning products and low-cost cleaning products. If you'd like to sign up for that, we would like to see you there. That'd be great.
And I'm also going to put in the chat the link to if you want to join our mailing list. And then you can read our brilliant emails.
Daisy is a MailChimp extraordinaire. Oh, thanks for listening.
Have I put the poll up now for you? Can everyone see the poll?
Poll is up.
Yeah.
And yeah, any questions, if anybody, wants to get in touch at all, if they're struggling with anything, then yeah, feel free to email us at any time.
Oh, thanks, Alan and Carol. And we've got our next pollution pick next Sunday, the 24th, I want to say.
A couple of Sundays. Last Sunday of the month.
Last Sunday of the month.
Yes. So yeah, if you filled in the feedback poll and you feel like you want to go.
And then if you filled out the feedback form and you feel like you want to go and you want to do something else really nice, then you could just like pop in a little sentence saying, hello Hackney Council, this was amazing, please do it again, we learnt so much. And that's really helpful for us too.
Isn't it, Manuela?
Manuela's very quiet.
You enjoyed it, Manuela. Yeah, there you are.
Yes, indeed.
Great.
Oh, thank you,
Manuela is a very wonderful member of the Hackney Council Waste and Recycling team, and yeah, you know, I think we're lucky to live in a place where the people who deal with our waste and recycling are really committed and passionate and understand about the importance of it rather than just empty the bins. So.
Yes. Hear, hear. Thank you, Manuela. Oh yeah, we can save the chat.
You can save the chat.
Good point.
Sorry, guys, I had the kids around. Thank you very much for everything.
Thanks.
Inspiring as usual.
Bye.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cool. All right then. So.
Yeah.
Yes. Go.
No, I'm gonna take off. But lovely talking with you guys, and thanks for putting this on. It's great. Let's catch up.
Where are you based, Andrew?
Lower Clapton.
Oh, I'll see you around. See you on the street.
Yeah, well, La Epiceria is great. My ex-girlfriend lived basically across the street from it, right on that Glenarm Road. So I got lots of things from there.
Yeah. I open your own container with 10% off.
Yeah. I feel like I was normally just getting wine or bread.
Wine there as well.
They have really good pastries.